Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour. I am Kyle Anthony, your host, where today we are talking UFC Louisville. We got Nasruddin Nurmagomedov versus Jared Cannonier. We're going to be breaking down 4 fights here on the card. And listen, before we even get into how fucking amazing we did last weekend, make sure you like this video, drop a comment, let me know what you guys think about this main event here. Kind of let's get some banter going. Always appreciate everybody following, liking, subscribing, all those great things. But I do want to first start out by saying we beat the shit out of the bookies this past weekend here, picked up over 8 units of profit for clients, hit on our top play, which was on Roman Kopylov, a fight that may not have been the most sexy fight that we've ever cashed, but it does not have to be. We were able to go out there, pick up that. We had some money scattered around here, a little bit on Islam inside the distance. We had all kinds of things kind of going on. Was able to get profitable there, as will here too, man. We're giving out free winners here. Strickland plus 200 via points. I mean, we are killing it. And like I said, you always got to move forward. There's too many cards to be too excited about. So very excited about that to at least cash in. But we've got another card ahead of us that we are going to break down. So if you want to become a client, link down in the description. We're nearly 60 units of profit at this point in the year, cashed 14 of the last 16 UFC events with nearly an ROI of 30%. If that doesn't make you want to become a client, I don't know what will. So excited to keep this hot streak going, man. Really to keep this hot streak going. So also, if you want to become not become a client, but be a part of Underdog Fantasy Sports, they are matching $250 deposit for new customers. Link down in the description using promo code Mr. UFC. Now, with that being said, and all that in the rearview mirror here, we got to dive into the main event of the evening between Nasruddin Nurmagomedov and Jared Cannonier. So this one here is an interesting one. We're getting some line movement, happening here. So this fight here, when you look at it, you've got the Russian sniper in Nasruddin Nurmagomedov, who is well-rounded and does have some slick striking. On the other side, you've got Jared Cannonier, who, is a guy with a lot of power and a good volume. And the one thing that you will see Cannonier do early and often in this fight, and it's really going to be those leg kicks. I think those are going to be something that he's going to need to call upon early and often, throwing those big shots, moving forward, keeping that volume high. And I think some of that can help him in this particular spot, kind of, tucking those leg kicks behind some of his big, powerful hooks that he does throw. And I think there will be success there. Now, the one thing here that I need to talk about here, because, definitely getting all kinds of different opinions on this one. So again, if you guys agree, disagree, would love to hear it down below in the comments. But when you look at Jared Cannonier's few wins, and I think that really the wins that have come up, the last 2 in particular, really are there's a little bit of an overreaction, I think, to those. And the first one being Marvin Vettori. Now, he goes out there in Jared Cannonier, he goes out there and lands 241 strikes. I mean, incredible. I mean, historic output there. The guy was he looked fantastic for a 40-year-old going out there, throwing a lot of shots. He looked great. He looked great. But we also have to remember that he was fighting fucking Marvin Vettori, right? So Marvin Vettori really doesn't do anything well. I mean, let's just call it as it is. He's got pretty terrible boxing, bad footwork. Pretty much his game plan for the most part is kind of, just utilizing his chin, weaponizing his chin, willing to take the shots and just move forward and just say, hey, I'm going to land more than you, or I'm going to hurt you more than you hurt me. And I'm going to keep moving forward. Now, that's great and all, but again, he was a punching bag. He was a walking corpse at a certain point, and Cannonier couldn't put him away. I mean, let's not forget that part where Cannonier was unable to put him away. Now, again, I know Vettori, durable, all of those things, but this guy was there to be hit, and he took all 241 of those. But you also got to realize that Vettori landed. For a guy that I think his striking is terrible, he landed 153 strikes. And again, it was volume on both these guys. He did lose, but I don't think it's the greatest showing for against Vettori, who doesn't really do anything great and just kind of stands in front of you and gets hit. And you even kind of look at the fight prior to that with Sean Strickland. The Sean Strickland fight here, yes, he beat Sean Strickland, but it was also a fight that I went back, rewatched. I thought he lost. I thought Strickland won the fight. I thought he did actually land more when you're looking at just overall numbers. I know that doesn't tell the whole story, but he was able to outland him. I thought he did enough. And arguably, many people do agree that Strickland should have gotten that victory. You even go prior back to that. He beats Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson, UFC has shipped over to PFL now. And then even before that was Kelvin Gastelum, who's on a 2-6 run in the UFC. So he has, yes, he is, and then the guys he's lost to, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I think it's just a little overstated about this volume, about this, kind of this whole thing that we're seeing from here. Now, I'm not debating that Cannonier's got cardio. I do believe that. I think that he's got the cardio. He can last. The guy has shown that he can keep pushing forward. He broke his arm and will still keep pushing forward. So there is that part of it. But when you're looking at just like stylistically, I think Imavov really has him covered everywhere on the feet. I mean, I think that he's got slicker striking, those snapping kicks overall. I think that he's very confident on the feet, can really move around very well and just find those angles and mix it up, switch stances, don't always, disguises his attacks very well. I like all of that, what he does. And really the two biggest advantages that I do think that Imavov has in this fight is going to be his fantastic footwork and his distance management. And I think that really is going to cause a lot of problems for Cannonier in this spot. I think it's really going to cause a lot of problems for him because you've got guys like Marvin Vettori going to stand in front of you and throw. Sean Strickland going to stand in front of you and throw and just move forward. And that's really his thing, where the guys that he's lost to, Robert Whitaker beat him, and Izzy. Both these guys are footwork. They work their angles. They're bouncing in and out. All these things happen where a guy like Cannonier, who, I don't really rate his striking that high. I mean, it's decent. He's got power. He's a physically strong guy. But overall, I don't really see what else there is that, and again, the leg kicks can be there. That's something that's going to, definitely be a weapon for him. But I just think a guy like Imavov who can bounce around, work his angles, work from the outside is really going to have a lot of advantages on the feet. Now, could Imavov look for takedowns? It's, possible, I guess, but I don't think that he's going to really be able to look to do that. I think Cannonier's takedown defense should probably hold up in this spot. So, and again, the downside maybe is does Imavov have the cardio himself? Can he put out that output? Can he do that? We've seen him go 5 rounds. He's able to do it. There has been a tick down at times where he looks like his output is down. But overall, I think that Jared Cannonier is going to struggle crashing the pocket, doing what he does, throwing those big shots. I think that Imavov can work on the outside. And there's a point here, we're looking at a 40-year-old versus a 28-year-old. There's got to be a point where Cannonier takes that, that decline in his skill set. Hard to say because, again, the output was definitely incredible against Vettori. But in this spot here, I do like Imavov here. Now, I am still looking at this number here and seeing kind of where it goes because we have seen this tighten a little bit here. I do like Imavov. I will be looking to possibly place a bet here on Imavov, but I like his side overall just because I kind of want to see where the money continues to go and what we're going to be doing here. So in this spot here, I do like Nasruddin Imavov minus 122. Now the next one here we're going to be talking about is going to be Miguel Baeza versus Puno Soriano. We've got Baeza, he is minus 205. You've got Soriano, he is plus 170. Now, this is going to be opening up the main card in Louisville, so this is definitely going to be a banger. I mean, I'm expecting fireworks in this fight from both of these guys. Both these guys throw heavy shots, and when you're looking at Baeza, this was a guy who came to the UFC undefeated, had some hype, was a marketable guy, started to get some finishes, looked pretty good. And all these things started to really happen for him. And it kind of looked, maybe he could be the next big thing, showed some sharp striking. There definitely was a lot of good things about him. Now, there's a couple issues here for a guy that's a minus 205 here. And I think the first one here is the 3 straight losses that he has suffered. Now, out of those 3 losses, he was knocked out twice, and that's not a good thing when you're looking at it. Plus, normally when you lose 3 times in a row, you're done. It's over. You're going to be fighting over Bellator. So there is that. There is that part of it, and you take that part of it, but you also got to take into consideration the fact that one of these losses was from Andre Fialho. Now, that I think is just a terrible loss to have on anybody's record. But to have that loss, I think, is just really bad. You've got Andre Fialho now, who is currently on an 0-5 run, no longer with the UFC. And all 5 of those losses, he was knocked out in all of them. And then he's now fighting. Last month, he fought in UAE Warriors and was knocked out. So this is a guy that is not UFC caliber, that is just really, a glass cannon. He's going to come forward, look to throw the big shots. And if he gets hit, he's going down. Limited technical skills, just wants to stand, throw, and trade. And he was able to do that to Baeza. And I think that's a terrible showing for Baeza overall. Now you add in the fact that not only did Baeza lose 3 times, get knocked out twice, get knocked out by a guy that is, not even close to UFC caliber, but also the fact that now his last fight was 2 years ago. And that, to me, I'm always looking at that. It's not the angle that I'm always going to take. Hey, there's a guy's been out. This is when you want to take him. But it's just what was going on prior to all of this. What was really going prior, and he was losing. He was losing fights prior to this to this 2-year layoff. And for a guy that was in his prime, ready to rock, ready to roll, there's all these great things going on for him, and loses 3 straight. Now he's off the map for 2 years is just a terrible sign to me. And I think that says a lot about a lot of different things, which, it's very, very bad. I mean, without me even kind of diving into certain things, it's just a terrible thing. Ring rust is real, as I always say here. Talk to fighters. Yes, of course, it's a real thing, and I think that's going to hurt him as well too. Now, it's not like Puna Soriano is has been some world beater by any means, but he's dangerous, man. He is dangerous. He is kind of like Fialho to an extent, where you're talking about a guy who's going to move forward and throw heavy hands, who's got bombs, who does have some good boxing, who will move forward and really look to kind of mix it up. And I think that could, again, be a vulnerability for Baeza, who may not want to be there, who has been knocked out, who may be a little timid in the pocket. And then, also the fact that, Puno is coming down in weight. So I do think that can help him in this spot where he could be a little bit of a size bully. He could bring some of that big power down. He could be the physically stronger guy. And that also adds in to possibly another path for him, which is wrestling. The guy's Division III All-American wrestler. He does have an ability. He doesn't use it. I mean, he's a guy who looks to say, forget wrestling completely, but it could possibly be what you do see a lot, where a guy who does have wrestling doesn't wrestle because he doesn't have the cardio. He just can't keep doing it. Or even if he misses a few, it's really going to be taxing on him, and he's going to really struggle standing up. And that could be the case here. But I also do believe it's a path for him. If he can kind of get that together early, really work on Baeza on the top, ground and pound, kind of work him there, I do think there's opportunity for him to really positionally kind of do something well, or kind of, really cause a lot of damage here. So in this spot here, this line, it has widened. I think it looks like it's actually kind of has been widening a little bit more here, but I think this is definitely more on a pick'em side of things, where maybe Baeza is like a -115, -120. I don't see that this line is over -200 and climbing. So I do like Puna here. I think he can get the job done. And I do like what he can bring to the table here. So I'd like the plus money here. I'm taking Puna Soriano +170 to get the job done. Now, the next one we're going to talk about here is going to be Julian Marquez -135 on the comeback here. You've got Zachary Reese +115. Now, you've got Julian, who is extremely durable, a guy that's going to be tough, who's going to brawl, who's going to move forward. On the other side here, you've got Zach Reese, who's long rangey and definitely more of like an opportunistic kind of submission guy here. But when looking at this fight, breaking this fight down, I just think that there's a lot of advantages here for Julian Marquez, or maybe not a lot of advantage, but really his strength does line up with a weakness of Reese when I'm looking at tape, breaking this all down. Now, Marquez is a guy that's really going to be looking to push forward, be aggressive, throw big shots, be relentlessly walking you forward. He's fine taking one to give one. He does not care. He'll take the shot because he'll keep marching forward. Now, the issue for Reese is really defensively, and to start, I think he's defensively inefficient. I think he's a hittable guy, and he really has that tall man defense where, his hands are kind of up in the air, but they're not really blocking shots, but then he kind of, keeps the head on the center line and only kind of leans back because he thinks he's kind of out of the range, of his opponent. And that's not going to work always. That's something that can work, I think, in the lower regional scene. I don't think that works in a position where you're talking about a guy who doesn't tuck in his chin at the UFC level. That's not going to really be, that's really not going to work out well, where you're going to have somebody like Julian who's going to want a phone booth fight. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to push forward. He's going to throw those big shots. He's going to try to mix it up in the pocket. And I think that's going to be a big problem for him here. And then one of the biggest red flags that you can maybe get is going to be his UFC debut, is Reese's UFC debut. And he went out there and he's undefeated and he's set up to fight Cody Brundage, which really is supposed to be a squash spot, really is supposed to be a spot where, he's going to be able to, smack Brundage around a little bit. If he takes him down, he's going to be submission, it really was kind of teed up for that. And within the first 2 minutes, for Cody Brundage to drop you, and then, of course, yes, Reese went for a triangle, but then you have Cody pick him up, slam him, knocks him out, fight over. I understand that the slamming part of it, I think, is definitely, it's an outlier. It's something that you're not going to see happen very often. That's that one thing. But the other part of it is Cody Brundage dropped you. I mean, Cody Brundage fucking dropped you. And that is a terrible showing for a guy that has a large reach, that, is supposed to be kind of this big prospect coming up. And Cody has terrible striking, very sloppy on the feet, does have some wrestling, but he's just not the cleanest striker. And he goes out there and drops you quickly. That's just a terrible, terrible showing. And if you look at Cody, what he's done, I mean, he's 2-4 in the UFC, but really he's 1-5. He's really 1-5 because he has that one victory against Jacob Malkoun, where it was a disqualification, yet he gets the victory, wherever it was. So you're looking at a guy that's really 1-5 in his last 6, and his only win is over this guy. So I think it's just a terrible showing overall when you're looking at that. And then you look at Marquez, where, yes, Reese is going to have this 5-inch reach advantage. I do think that's, he can try to fight behind the jab a little bit, but also Marquez does not give a shit about that. He's a guy that's going to move forward, who's going to be aggressive. And as I keep saying it over again, he's going to want a phone booth fight. He's going to want to push the pace. And that's something that people with not much experience just do not handle well. People that are that fighters that just don't fight, that want to be at range and have fought at range and all these things, maybe at lower levels, and other guys may respect the range because he's so tall, he's so lanky, and they can't get inside. I don't expect Marquez to do that. I think Marquez is the better striker. I think that he's going to be able to move forward. He's going to take some of these shots, and he knows he has to cut that distance. He has to get inside, has to cut that distance. And I think that he's going to be successful landing some of these big shots and really hurting him here. And you also even look at it that, Marquez is a guy that, likes chaos. He's going to look to get hit a couple times and then just, really take one to give one. And that's how it's going to kind of play out. And then lastly, you got to look at the strength of schedule here. And, it's not the greatest. Yes, Julian has not faced the highest level of guys, but he has faced some tough guys. He's 4-3 in the UFC, including Dana White Contender Series win, which obviously that was a while ago. But he's coming off back-to-back losses, but he lost to Gregor Rodriguez, who is, definitely a tough guy, tough fighter, can wrestle, has good boxing, has power. And the other side, the other fight was Marc-Andre Barrio, these guys threw an absurd amount of volume at each other. And from there, he ended up, finishing them. But it was just a crazy fight, big volume from both of them. And yeah, these guys, those are tough guys. I mean, what are you going to do? Tough guys. This is a big step down for Marquez, compared to some of the guys that he's faced. And you look at Reese, the guy he's fought outside of the UFC are trash. Are trash. He fought, if you look at it here, outside of the UFC, here are some of the records, 5-12, 8-5, 6-1, 1-1, 0-3. Now, I know that he's young and all these things. He hasn't faced the highest level guys, but either way, it's just not a good it's just not a good look. And now and then you go to the UFC and you get knocked out by Cody Brundage. I think this line is right where is bettable in this spot here. I do like Marquez. It's a little bit of a wild card, of course, because Marquez is another wild man himself. He's been out of the cage and all these things too. But I just think that Reese could be a fraud at this point here. And if he loses here, it's pretty much over for him. So I do like Marquez at the short favorite number here of -135. So that's going to go in the spot. And last one real quickly, we are going to go over is going to be, let me get this here, is going to be between Raul Rosas Jr. and Ricky Tercios. Now, this one here, we're looking at it here. Now, you know that Raul is young, talented guy coming up, kind of pretty much growing up in the UFC, threw him to the fire against, guys who were at least, UFC caliber type of fighters. And the big issue there was that fight against Christian Rodriguez. He goes out there, really pushed that pace, thought that he was going to be able to really dominate, looked good early, and really just blew his cardio. And that's a big thing that I think that he's going to learn from. Yes, then he knocks out Terrence Mitchell, who's not very good, but knocks him out and does what he needs to do against a guy of that caliber. But the thing here is that I do think that you can see Raul be a little more patient, not look to really go crazy and just kind of dive at legs right away. Yes, he's going to do that. Yes, we're going to see that. But I think he's going to be a little bit more patient, even if he's in the clinch, even if he's got some positional, gets him down and can really kind of work from a dominant position. I think he's just going to be a little bit more methodical behind some of these. I also think that he can take Tercios down. Tercios can be taken down. Now, the issue here, I think, for Raul is going to be, how well Tercios scrambles. You go back, you watch the kid is just, he does not just kind of give up when he's on his back. He doesn't just say, okay, you've got me, and kind of just, okay, you've got me, I'm going to lay here in the guard. He's continually working, continually moving, continually changing positions, keeping the guy on top working, creating space, finding opportunities to transition, reversal, all these things. And I like what he's done there, because that's really where I think this fight can have some legs and get further, where you're going to have Tercios that he can survive. I think that's kind of, how this comes down, is that you're going to have Raul who can get takedowns, who can work you, who I think will bank rounds positionally, whether he's on top, whether he's got his back, whether he's up against the fence. I think he's going to win all of those. And I don't think it's going to be, this incredible dominating win, but I think he's going to be the better minute winner in this spot and really control the action over 3 rounds. So in this spot here, I think that Tercios is going to survive, the early onslaught, and then he's going to do enough to get this to the scorecards. So I do like Raul Rosas Jr., and you've got the -250 number on the money line. I do think that this gets to the decision. He wins via points. That's a nice juicy number of +180. We're going to go another decision here like we did with Strickland, +200. We're going to go Raul Rosas Jr. via points, +180. Now, there you have it for UFC Louisville. If you want to become a client, link down in the description, at Kyle Anthony UFC on Twitter. And I posted up more stuff and some videos and stuff like that from, I was at the event this past weekend. So, there you have it, and let's just fucking keep this money train rolling, feeling good about it, and let's keep it going, and let's cash.